Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to deviate a little bit from the Kenjutsu, Iaijutsu, and we're going to go into how to develop power and eliminate poor posture in specifically Aikido, but you can also apply this concept of generating power from your stomach to throw in lots of other martial arts. So in Aikido, one of the most difficult things is to keep your posture as you're throwing, and here's why. If I'm going to go to throw him and he resists my throw, my tendency is to pivot at the hips and want to throw him like this, okay? The problem is my posture goes and I can't move forward after this. I have no more pressure forward. The other problem with this, if I go forward and he holds onto my hand and I'm bent over, as he rolls, he's going to pull me with him and I have no way to control that. What a lot of people do is they keep their stance real high, almost like if I'm walking. Because if I'm walking, I can move forward with him, but if he stops, I don't have any pressure to move forward. So then that's what causes the bending over to throw and get the rest of the power with bending over and throwing, but obviously that causes a lot of problems. How can I move forward without using my upper body momentum? How can I use the gravity of my body dropping to propel him forward? Okay, so to understand how to throw his body without using my upper momentum, you really need to learn swordsmanship, and I put together a 4-part series that I said was really a 5-part series, and this is really the 5th part in that series, but I'm taking those principles of swordsmanship and I'm showing them how to directly relate it to a throwing art like Aikido. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 or 4 different things. I'm going to show you, number 1, how to use your body weight or gravity to propel your uke or your partner forward and never have to lose or bend over or lose your posture while doing that. It's very difficult to throw your partner without using momentum of my upper body going forward or bending over, actually using the power of my hips dropping, the mass dropping, propelling him forward. So today we're going to go over the 4 concepts that you need to understand to be able to do that. First, we're going to go over stance control, understanding the difference between mobility and stability in your stance, and also how to use the dropping of your body to propel your partner forward. Second, we're going to go over some exercises that you can do to learn how to develop this skill, because this skill is very difficult to learn. Next, we're going to show you with using some Aikido examples of how you can use this pressure control to incorporate it into your Aikido training. And last, I'm going to show you some exercises that you can do to develop your lower body muscles, because if you don't have strong quads, you won't be able to do this technique. The first principle you need to understand is this is my center line of my body, and the closer my feet are to that center line, the less stability I have. Now what I mean by that is this. If I'm standing here like this and he pulls on my arm, it doesn't take much to pull me over. If I just put my legs a little farther apart and he pulls on my body, it takes a little more force to pull me over. Now if I drop deeper and he tries to pull, it takes a lot more force to pull my body over. So my center line is very important for my ability to resist pressure in my stance. Now there's one variable that I can add into the stance control that really changes the name of the game when it comes to throwing people. And here's what it is. If I can change the height of my stance, and the lower with the same distance between my feet and the center line, the lower I drop my stance, the more power I can resist in going forward, or the more power I can throw into the person. So let me demonstrate this. If he just pulls on me, it doesn't take much pressure to pull me over. Now, as he gradually starts to pull on me, instead of keeping my center line at the same level, as he pulls on me, I'm going to drop the same distance between here and my foot as was up here, but I just had more power that I can resist against. Now, that was with him pulling on my body. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the same effect but he's going to push on my body, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load this leg back here instead of this leg because the force is coming at me from this position. So as he pushes on me, if I stay here, he's going to push me over with, so much force. Now, as he pushes on me, if I drop my body weight, I can have a lot more force forward. So the question is, how can I get that pressure and that power that I generate by dropping my center, how can I get that to create a powerful throw? That was resistive pressure. Either he's pushing against me or pulling from me, and I'm just resisting that using my body mass. Now, how do you create your body mass to actually project him forward? Now, here's the tendency of what everybody wants to do is I want to push back. When he pushes on me, I want to push back to get him going forward. And you can't do that, and I'll show you why. So if he starts pushing on me, and I'm going to drop my stance, push hard. Yeah, and push a little hard. There you go. Now, when he's pushing on me, now if I go to push against him, I can't do that because I'm meeting force with force. So I'm going to show you how to do it correctly. So now watch. When he starts to push on me, I'm going to absorb that amount of force that he's putting into me. Now, instead of pushing back, all I'm going to do is drop my center weight. Keep pushing. Drop my center weight, and then that is going to push him forward. The more I drop, the more forward that pushes him. But the problem is when I get to a certain point, when I extend this foot out, so he pushes on me and I absorb. Now watch, when I drop my weight and I push forward, once I extend this leg, I have no more push left. So the question that people keep asking me is, how do I keep the pressure going forward without becoming more stable and just stopping to where then they have to use their upper body weight? Now what we're going to do is learn continual pressure forward and how to do that with proper stance control. Okay, the first principle of power generating going forward is if my foot is right over my center and I push on I push off, my power only goes up. And this will be important when we talk about transition steps. So now the farther my foot gets behind my center, the more power I can generate forward. But the problem with that is if it's too far back, if he pushes on me, I can't go forward because I have no push out of this back leg. Okay, so there's got to be a happy medium here so that when he starts pushing on my body, I can drop and then I can push off of this back leg to propel him forward. So the key to this is when I am extending this leg, when I'm dropping and I'm dropping and my power is going forward, how can I transition that power into this leg without pulling back? Meaning, if I'm here and my foot's out here and I go to drop, and when I push all out of that foot, if I push on this foot, I actually go back in the opposite direction. So what I have to do is as he's pushing on me, now I have to place my foot so that when I drop and when I push, I get over this pivot point in the center here. So when I push off of this leg, my center is in front of this foot, so I can continually press off of the back foot. So what I'm going to do now is show that when you transfer from this foot to this foot, if your distance is good here, when you run out of pressure here, you can use the other leg automatically because you have your center dropping in front of this foot. And here's what I mean. So when he starts to push on me, I'm going to go down and absorb that. And then when I push off this leg, I'm going to slowly keep pushing, back up a little bit, keep pushing. When I run out of push with this leg, I've already got my center going past this foot, so I can keep dropping and keep pushing forward. So using this principle, I can continue dropping, keep pushing him forward, and keep pushing him forward. So when I'm out of pressure here, I can keep going forward. I'm keeping pressure forward. And then I'm going to put my foot here. You push back. I'm going to keep pushing forward. And then when I get to this foot, I can continue pushing forward. So theoretically, you have power as long as you need power going in that direction. So let's apply this to an Aikido throw. So instead of here locking my stance and trying to lever him with my upper body, he's going to push against, from that front foot, he's going to push against me. So instead of me trying to fight him and push, I'm just going to absorb his push into this back leg. I'm relaxed, stay here relaxed all day. So now all I have to do is stay relaxed, he's pushing hard as he can. I'm just going to drop, and then when I decide to throw him, I am going to just push off my back leg and drop. Now what I'm going to do is show an Aikido exercise you can do. As I push him, I'm going to continue that pressure, continue my ki or my pressure forward. As he rolls, I'm not going to just throw him and wait till he comes back up. So I'm going to come in. Now what I want to do is I want to show you some exercises that you can practice that'll help you develop this skill, because this is a real feeling thing. It's not something you can logically do. You've got to learn where your stance has to be. This is too far, this is about just right, to have power in all directions. So the first thing you need to do is learn how to absorb power into your stance. So as he pushes on me, I'm just going to, I'm going to drop. So I'm going to drop as he's pushing into me. I'm going to drop, and then I'm going to learn that as he's pushing, I'm just going to drop some more and go forward. So that's the first thing is you need to feel, is not feel like he's pushing on me and I'm going to push back. It doesn't work that way. Whatever he pushes onto me, I've got to absorb into my stance. So as he pushes, I've got to absorb into my stance. Okay, so part two is as he's going to push a little less on me. So as he gets to a certain amount of push, I'm going to learn to drop, but drop to where this knee is bent, and then I'm going to drop some more and just push him forward with the dropping of my weight. That's the second thing you should practice. One thing unless you have real strong knees, I wouldn't put it out too much. I would drop the knee underneath your center so that you're not bowing. I'm doing this so that you can see from the video of how the knee is dropping, but probably if you're facing your partner, you'll want to keep your knee underneath you so that you're not putting lateral pressure on your knee. So this should be straight here, and the knee should drop straight down towards my center. Okay, now where do I put my front foot? So as I drop and push, just relax and push. Okay, now as soon as I get over this foot, then I'm almost out of push here. I can drop on this knee, drop and push forward. So that's how you can do this up and down the dojo with a partner until you really get the skill. Okay, this is going to be difficult, especially for Aikido people. I'm going to show you why it's so hard to do this and exercises you can do that you can unlearn these bad habits. So the first thing you need to learn how to do is pull your mass backwards and push your mass back forwards without using my legs. So instead of going backwards and throwing off this leg to go backwards, you've got to learn to draw your body weight back with your stance. And what I mean by this is if I drop this leg, like say I'm in Aikido and I'm going to step back, instead of pushing off this front foot as I get back, I'm going to leave my front foot straight so you can see. I'm just going to drop my body weight. See how it pulls that leg back as my center? So I'm actually using my body dropping to pull myself backwards. Okay, now this is more critical for moving forward, especially if you're a karate practitioner. This is why it's very difficult to teach this skill to a karate practitioner. Now in karate, we're trained to stability. I'm in a stable stance here. My legs, bent here. I'm in a stable stance. And then when I move forward, I maintain that stability by keeping this stable as I move forward. So everything moves forward with stability. And this is kind of the opposite idea. So just like you bent this leg to bring the front leg back, you've got to bend this leg and then use your body weight to drag the back leg forward. So if I'm pushing back against my body weight and I move forward and I push against my body weight, it's hard to move forward. So what I've got to do is I've almost got to take this leg and release it. So I'm going to control release it, but I'm going to release it and then it's going to pull my back leg forward. See how I'm moving forward? So what I do in my mind is when I'm dropping, instead of trying to pick up my stance as I move forward, which is natural for karate training, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep dropping this knee and pushing this knee to the ground until I get to the point where my center is over here, and then I can pick myself up. Because if you don't do that, you're going to drop, 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 and then you're going to be down on the floor. So you've got to stabilize yourself at some point, but you don't want to stabilize yourself until you get your center over this other foot, and then you can stabilize and then push forward off of the stance. So that power of dropping not only can be put into a body, into somebody you're throwing forward, but it also is super beneficial and is one of the best skills that you can learn from doing weapon training. I just want to show you just the idea of how you can have dropping power put into a weapon. If you want to see another example of how this power can be developed into increasing your speed, I'm going to put this bow kata above here in the link. Okay, now I want to show you some Aikido examples that there's many, but I'm just going to show you about 3 so that you can start incorporating this into your training. Number 1 is a tenshin movement when you step back. And the tendency is to reach your body forward and pull back like this, and then you get off balance, you can't step back. So here, I'm just going to actually load in so he's going to pull on me. I'm just going to relax, drop, and step back, and then do the technique. So you can use it in a stepping back manner to really make everything more relaxed as you're drawing him off balance. Now, there's a lot of movements where you're actually extending from your center, and this is really helpful. I'm going to use like Shionagi as an example. So most people, they come over here, they grab it in their shoulders, and then they use the force of their upper body to move forward, and this sort of just stabilizes everything and keeps it, and then you step again. So it's real step oriented. But I'm gonna turn. Now as I turn, now watch, I'm gonna drop my power into my bottom leg, so my power is moving. I don't need a lot of power with this technique, but the point is I'm generating all the power for this technique using my stance control. Then your upper body can stay real relaxed. Okay, so let's use an example of a Shomanuchi Ikkyo. As he comes in, the tendency is to come and reach with my upper body and then lever off of this front foot. So I'm actually levering off of this front foot and falling into this position, okay? Now you can get really good at that. As he comes in, I can come in and be really stable doing this. but I'm going to show you how to use center power and center control to do the same principle. Now what I'm going to do is show the principles of stance control on Shomenuchi Ikkyo. So as he comes up slowly, instead of reaching with this backhand, which pulls my body up in the air and makes me use my upper body, I'm going to drop into my stance, drop my stance. As he comes up, I'm going to dropping my stance, keeping my elbow here into position. And see, I'm just going to drop my body weight, and that's going to push me forward, okay? And then as I do that, here, I'm dropping. Now, as I take off of this foot, I'm going to put the power coming from this foot, draw this down into my center so that I have my center control, and my whole technique comes from my center and not my upper body. There's obviously thousands of ways that you can apply this to Aikido, and obviously you're going to need a good teacher to teach you how to use your stance power to, utilize it in your technique, because I find that it takes, even with direct on instruction, it's going to take 2 or 3 years to get this skill down into something simple as Aikido. But I highly suggest learning it first in a weapons art, because then you can understand it a little easier and then apply it to something like Aikido. So this skill is very dependent on your quad strength. And if you don't have good quad strength, then you won't be able to perform any of these maneuvers with any kind of power until you build up your quads. And I'm going to give you some exercises on how to do that. I'm going to just cover some basic exercises for squatting, but if you want to know more exercises that you can do for a whole body workout, I suggest the link above. Okay, if you can do 100 deep squats without any trouble in a row, then you won't need to do any of these exercises. But if you can't do that, you need to start up gradually, and take you about 3 months to build to where you're doing 100 squats. If your legs are real weak, you're going to need something to hang on to, because your knees are going to not used to pressurizing themselves all the way down and all the way up. So you've got to build up to that. So grab a kitchen, like the kitchen counter, the bathroom sink, and all you want to do is just go down a little bit at a time, just a little bit down and a little bit back up. And you can do like 10 in the morning, 10 at noon, 10 at night. Do about 30 a day, and do that for a couple of weeks. Then work up to, maybe to where you're doing 50 a day, to where you're only going to this point. And the trick is people want to use their back and their hip flexors and everything. So this is not really a squat. It's more in your hips and back are getting utilized. So you want to hold on and go straight down and straight up, and that's where you want to build the quad strength. And sometimes you can even lean back just to really work different muscles than bending forward. So once you can do say 50 squats a day, just these real small squats, then you can just start dipping a little bit farther and maybe letting go of the counter, dipping farther. And then you want to do this kind of sumo position in the beginning, because it's easier with your hip flexors open. And then so when you can do 50 to 100, preferably 100, where you're doing a deep squat and all the way up, then you can start adding some weight. So what I'm doing is I'm going to add some weight here. So I'm just going to hold it here and then dipping and then going back up to where you're just adding weight. Once you can do it with your legs out, then I suggest bringing your legs in and then going down, pressurizing your knee all the way up, and then do about 100 of those with some weights. Once you get to where you can do it with the weights, maybe 50 with the weights, then you're going to be strong enough to be able to learn that skill we just discussed. Thank you for everyone that has liked and subscribed to the channel, because if you want more videos on Kenjutsu and Iaijutsu principles, you can click on the link above.